who has joined us many times and joins us now. And Austin, how are you during the pandemic?
I'm good, man. I'm trying to survive. And yeah, jokingly, things are unprecedented times. That's what I always keep hearing from coaches, administrators, college coaches. God, it's crazy. Everything that's going on and how we're trying to get things going again, and how to do it safely, and at the same time, we just need it. Robert, we need it. We need sports. We gotta have it. It's good for the psyche. It's therapeutic for the soul. And in college football, I think I read a Darren Ravel piece where it's worth close to $1 trillion in the economy as far as across the country. And you think about it, Stillwater's no different. There's so many of these college towns all over the country that so much of their economy is built on 6 home games, and whether it be Tuscaloosa, Alabama, whether it be Knoxville, Tennessee, it doesn't matter. And it's crazy. We have got to get this going. We got to figure this thing out, and hopefully we get some good news.
And we'll talk some college coming up. But let's talk high school first because
Sure.
you're very involved with Vype the magazine. You're a high school sports primarily high school football junkie, but high school sports. Vype covers all of it, and that's not just in the Tulsa area. That's statewide, and the magazines that are, you can find them here at the on cues all the time that spotlight all the athletes here in North Central Oklahoma. And of course, I love the Pigskin Preview. It's the Texas football. It's the Bible of Oklahoma high school football primarily. I've got coaches that live in my neighborhood, Austin. I asked them all the time, and we had Ed Jackson on. We had OSSAA represented, and nobody really knows. I mean, I guess it's the same in pro sports and college. Nobody really knows. But I need somebody to know that there'll be a high school football season next year.
Well, it's a part of my company, Trinity Media Group. We're the Learfield of the OSSAA. That was the deal that we got done with David Jackson at the OSSAA, and we that started in January. So we work hand in hand with them on the sponsorship, the corporate stuff, how to monetize some of that branding and all the things that come with that. So, I'm constantly talking to David. When we let me just put it to you this way: we were in the middle of hanging banners and getting everything set up for all the sponsors of the basketball tournament. When David had to make the decision, the OSSA had to make the decision to cancel them, and so obviously a lot of moving parts, and it affects business, affects everything. And so I've been talking to David pretty regularly, talking to a lot of coaches. I was up in Owasso, and here's a good story for you. Working with their administration on some things with their properties, and Bill Blankenship. Of course, I played for Bill years and years ago at Union, and he's a close mentor of mine. And Coach B made a great comment. He said, baseball doesn't matter what baseball does, doesn't matter what basketball does, NBA, MLB. Honestly, it really doesn't matter what the NFL does. He said he believes, and I think there's some merit to this, he says we go in high school athletics, especially high school football in Oklahoma, we go as the colleges go. And he can't imagine a situation to where Oklahoma State and OU, however they're going to safely facilitate this thing and start playing football games, he can't imagine a situation where they're playing and high school is not. And then he said, and it's real hard to imagine a situation where they're not playing and high school is playing. And so, so I think there's some merit to the fact that, high school athletics in Oklahoma goes as college goes, especially with football. And, it's so hard to try to figure out. I know David's trying to do his due diligence. It would be very tough on the OSSAA financially. It would be very tough on everybody if we try to push back fall athletics. But here's the thing, Robert. I mean, I understand that large schools, especially Tulsa Public, Oklahoma City Public Schools, Lawton Public Schools, you get into some of these big public schools, obviously they have to be accountable to more students, more families, a bigger base. So that's the hard part, is to get those administrators comfortable to get the Oklahoma Department of Health comfortable letting those administrators know, hey, you can get back to school. This shouldn't be a problem. Take these precautions. But outside of that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of coaches I talk to, especially coaches outside of big cities in rural areas. I mean, let's face it, Robert, we've got a bunch of communities in Oklahoma that have never even had a COVID-19 case, and they're just looking around and saying, we're ready. We're ready to get back to work, get back to playing football. And so I don't know how it's going to be. I think the one thing that is good, unlike what some of the state colleges in California did, and basically saying, we're not going to have school. Well, the one thing that we're doing good in Oklahoma is that I know it's frustrating, but everybody's kind of waiting and seeing. Nobody's making a definitive answer. Nobody's just canceling something 4 and 5 months down the road when, in all intents and purposes, 3 weeks ago, everybody was telling us that we haven't hit a spike as a country and haven't hit a spike as a state of Oklahoma with the COVID cases. That was 3 weeks ago, and we still haven't hit the spike, and it doesn't look like we're going to hit it, and now things look like they're kind of nominally on a decline. So I think it's good that everybody's waiting because, time is kind of our friend here when it comes to getting everybody comfortable and making that decision. And so I think it goes with high school. I think high school goes with college, and everybody's kind of waiting and seeing. But the good news is nobody's making a rash decision and just canceling stuff that are so far down the road that we can't even see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, here's an interesting question for you and you're younger than I am. You played the game more recently than I did. Back when I played at our high school, we had a universal gym and maybe a few free weights. College, back when I was around, you went home for the summer. You didn't have this, full year type thing. And you didn't have the weight rooms that you have now. I mean, OSU used to lift in a dungeon in the basement of Gallagher.
Yeah.
I mean,
Under Gallagher, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed. It's changed a lot from when I was a player to when you were, and to even now. It's a lot different. But we've got all these kids spread out. We're seeing videos, not just the college kids. We're seeing videos of the high school kids, pulling their parents' car or pushing their parents' car, or in the garage with weight equipment, or Brock Martin jumping on the flatbed of a pickup doing vertical jumps on a flatbed truck. I mean, you got all these things going on, and the question I've got when we get back, because I do believe we'll get back and play, it's to the point everybody's so concerned about the safety of the sport, which I am too.
Right.
But are we gonna find out? And I hate to say this because this could put some strength coaches out of business, and I don't really necessarily think we need to put them out of business. I think what they do is really good, and especially Rob Glass and what I see him do to kids.
Oh yeah.
As far as making them stronger and fitter and all that. But are we going to find out that in some ways kids can go work on their own and get ready for a season? Otherwise, we're going to have a bunch of injuries and an unsafe football season.
Yeah, that's I talked to a couple of D1 head coaches about this, and they're all in consensus on this because the physical demands that coaches put on athletes, in preseason, basically during camp, and then during the season, it's it's really, really hard. And the reason why coaches can do that is because, as you said, if Rob Glass has been working with guys all off season and all summer, he's going to have them ready to be able to handle anything coaches put on them. And we know how that works. The more you can do, the more productive you can be, the better you can be as a team, the more, focused you can be, all that stuff. So every coach that I've talked to says 8 weeks. We got to have 8 weeks. And basically what they're saying is whenever we're going to play our first game, you got to give us 8 weeks, like basically 2 months. I need at least 3 or 4 weeks for my strength coach to work with the kids. Now, we might not see the productive gains strength-wise and everything that we would normally see because kids quit working out really with their coaches in March. But as far as getting them ready to handle camp, we got to have 3 or 4 weeks with the kids to get them in shape. and no matter how many truck pulls they do at home, or no matter how many push-ups, all the things that they try to do at home. I mean, you and I both know, Robert, it's a little bit different when Rob Glass is sitting there with a timer on the line and waiting for you to make your times than it is for your mom filming it, right? So from that standpoint, when a coach says, "Hey, we got to get them on campus," however that looks, if we only do clusters or little bits at a time or 10 athletes at a time, we got to get them on campus and we got to get them working out. And then we can have them ready to start camp. And then from there, the clock starts. We need a good 3 or 4 weeks practices, 25, 28 practices to get them ready for our first game. And I think that's pretty true. And I think that's why, with football, if we want to start everything at the end of September or at the beginning of September, then, July 1 is really kind of the date. By 4th of July, after the 4th of July break, we got to get kids on campus. And that goes for high school too. High school's the same way. Now, the OSSA has talked about putting something out to allow coaches to bring kids in to work them out starting June 1. That's tentative. They don't know how that's going to look. They got to get with the Oklahoma Department of Health on that. But even if it's just 5 kids at a time or 10 kids at a time, these coaches, and you know them, Robert, they are chomping at the bit. They're dying. They are literally. You want to see an industry or a group of people that literally don't know what to do with themselves. It's football coaches right now. And so from that standpoint, they'll work all day and all night if they have to get all the kids run through some drills, get the kids run through, conditioning and all the things that you got to do to get ready for a season. So I think we're going to have our answer for college by July 1. I mean, we're going to have our answer because you can't just basically say, hey, everybody has to stay at home, self-quarantine, and do all that stuff, and everybody's going to show up for camp August. Without them working out with their strength coaches and showing up for football, I mean, as one D1 coach told me, we're going to have a lot of kids hurt. And so from that standpoint, you got to – football is not like basketball. You can't just play pickup basketball games all summer and then start playing basketball. It's totally different, and you know that as well as anybody. And so that's where I think that we've waiting and seeing and trying to figure this out, and you can do it safely. And the good news is, Robert, is that now that the anxiety of the United States public of society, if you will, has kind of ratcheted down a little bit. And impatience is ratcheting up. That's a good thing, I think. I think our country just naturally, we're impatient people. We want to work. We want to do, we want to be back to life and be productive. And so I think the overwhelming response of getting back to work, we understand there's a risk. There's always a risk, but we understand the heightened risk with some kind of pandemic out there that can really start infecting people. But at the same time, if we can do it safely, overall, the public is all on board for it. It would be one thing if college coaches and administrators and high school coaches and administrators were trying to push something that the public overwhelmingly did not want. Sure. But it's the opposite. The public overwhelmingly wants this, and they're willing to take the risk. And I giggle at so many people that put out polls or do different things. Hey, if you're an OSU football fan, would you go to a game? And 89% of the people are like, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'd go today. And so from that standpoint, I
guarantee you, if you put this question out on Twitter to the Alabama fan base, would you go? Yeah. Would you go watch the Crimson Tide in their season opener against? Well, no, actually, they're supposed to open against USC in Dallas.
USC,
but
right?
Would you go? Even if you knew the guy sitting next to you might have COVID-19, and I guarantee you, it wouldn't be 100%, but you might. I think you'd have more than 50% say, "Oh yeah, I'll take the chance." What the heck?
Oh, no question. I think you'd have more than 70 or 80%. Right.
Hey, a couple of quick things. Austin Chadwick with us from Trinity Media, Vype Magazine, and are you guys in the mix planning a pigskin preview right now?
Oh yeah, that's
golly, that's gotta be.
Yeah, and well, here's the good news, and you know this too. When we put a comprehensive pigskin preview together, and we're going to get information from every high school team in the state, regardless of class or where they're at, from Hollis all the way up to Grove. It doesn't matter. And so from that standpoint, we have to get the information from the coaches. Well, I've been extremely impressed with how coaches, typically in a normal setting, they want to wait till spring ball's over with so they can give us the best information they can on their team. Who's going to be catching balls, who's going to be throwing the ball, who's going to be blocking and doing all these things. Well, the coaches have been great because we've told them, like, hey, we get it. We know that you're kind of shooting in the dark here a little bit. You haven't had much time with this particular team you're going to be playing with in the fall, but can you give us all your information? And so the response has been really good. So we're actually ahead of schedule when it comes to getting the information that we got to put in the preview,
right,
and then everything else that goes with it, our college previews, all the different things that go with it. We are full speed ahead on doing a magazine. And here's the thing, Robert, and I had a conversation with Rogers about this. If for whatever reason we have a shortened season in high school football, or they're going to get rid of non-district games and we're just going to play our district games, not start that till October, or if they're going to cancel the season completely, we're still going to do a book because our
people will still buy it.
No question. And the way we view it is that it's not these kids' fault. It's not the seniors it's not their fault. And so, it's something that they can still have the same type of 350-page magazine that they get highlighted in, regardless of if they play a season. And so either way, we're doing a magazine. And if there was going to be a season, we're going to tell you who's going to be the best. So
I gotcha.
That's how we look at it.
Okay, a couple of quick things. Your alma mater, I haven't seen it yet, but Bill Haston was telling me about it. They're kind of building a Taj Mahal over there at Union.
They, it's funny. I talked to Kirk Hartzler, who's the superintendent. He was an old coach of mine at Union years ago, and of course Emily Warren's the AD. Her and I went to school together at Union, and they've got this. This thing's going to be pretty legit. Now there's nothing there now. They've torn down the stands, and Union's going to be playing all their district games are going to be road games. They're basically going to play a lot of. They're only playing 3 home games, I think, this whole year, and so from that standpoint. There's some development going on, but if you've ever seen any renderings, the best thing to do is go look at Allen, Texas, and what they built about 8 or 9 years ago. It's going to be something like that, which is pretty
with a better
impressive.
concrete company.
Yeah, there you go. But with all that being said, they're doing some things. They passed the bond. Union was due for an overhaul in their stadium. That stadium was built in 1971, and it was state of the art back then. But then, it's been nearly 50 years, and so from that standpoint, they needed to do something. Of course, Union is in a situation to where they're not tied to a whole lot of other public schools. When they do bond issues, they do it geographically from where they're at, and Robert, a lot of that in Woodland Hills Mall money in the city of Tulsa, a lot of that taxpayer dollar, sales tax money from Woodland Hills Mall, that is in Union's district. So that's why Union's been able to do some of the things. They built the UMAC. That was a monstrosity back when Benny Dixon decided to do that, and it was hosting college basketball conference tournaments. They've never been. They've never been one to shy away from building kind of monstrosities here, but I think it'll be a phenomenal facility and a great complex.
Hey, we're going to have to get you on again sometime. We got more to talk about, but not enough time to get it done. Austin, I appreciate it. What's the tentative date on the Pigskin preview?
Probably looking at the same date as we typically do every year, about the middle of July. I think last year we got it out on July 11th. This year, probably about the same. The only thing that might prohibit us a little bit, we're going to do something special this year. We're not only going to do our Vype Top 100, we're going to rank all the top 100 players. And it's not necessarily a recruiting ranking. It is more of a high school football. Who are the best football players in the state, regardless of class? And so from that standpoint, we generally do these photo shoots where we got to get 100 kids there, and so that might be delayed, if you will, until late June. So that might push the date back a little bit. But right now, as we're going, we're looking at mid-July, just like always, and we'll get this thing going. You'll get your assignment, and we'll get rolling with this thing. So,
all right. Hey, I appreciate it, Austin. Take care.
Okay, buddy.
All right, Austin Chadwick.